So to start off the meeting, I said we had a surprise video. And let me start out with that surprise video here.
I have a degree in biology. Right now, I feel like I'm putting it to better use than I did in my career. Wood is never perfect, but it's always perfect. Imperfections are, I think, what give character to everything, really. That type of thinking makes me more accepting of myself and others. Another woodturner who I really respect gave me a critique on my work, and it was a pretty harsh critique. I could take it personally and be upset that he didn't think I was good enough, or my pieces were shit and I'm not a good woodturner. Or I could think of it as a part of my journey, a learning moment. I went straight back to the lathe and started focusing on form. And in a month's time, I was doing stuff that was completely different than what I was doing in the past. Woodturning has helped me stay on this path of being more aware of myself and how I'm feeling, and made me more in touch with who I am. I never thought it would change me the way it changed me. I was just looking for a thing to do that was cool. Woodturning is problem solving. The standard solutions aren't the answer to the problem. Sometimes you have to make your own tool, invent a new way to do something. It might not be the solution you think it's going to be. It might not be easy, it might not be hard. It's just, it will be different than what you thought it was going to be. I try to remind myself whenever something goes wrong, it's not the piece that is important. It's what you've experienced that brings me the most satisfaction, the most joy. Sometimes trees will come down unexpectedly and do damage. I'll go to that place and ask them if I can have that wood, and I'll bring back a piece for them after I've finished it. They'll think about that wood in a different way, not like this destructive force, but as a living, growing piece that it was its time to pass. I think embracing imperfection is taking something that's perceived as worthless and turning it into something beautiful.
Well, if that doesn't get your juices going, nothing will. You want to say a few words, Bill?
Yeah, sure. Am I on? Yeah, I'm on. So yeah, I'm a movie star now. No, I'm a good friend of mine who's done a lot of editing for me for different projects I've worked on. He decided that he wanted to start making documentaries, and I was fortunate enough that he just out of the blue said he would like to feature my wood turning as his first piece. And so he came and interviewed me for about 45 minutes, and then we went out in my shop and he filmed a bunch of stuff, and he's a fantastic editor. He's just like one of the best I've ever worked with, and he's also a really good director now too. And he made me sound good. He's made me sound intelligent. I was kind of surprised. So anyway, that's it. And that's kind of, yeah, that's all.
It's it looked great. I'm jealous.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks again.
Yeah.
So as we move on, I want to remind everyone of our turning talk that's coming on Saturday the 16th, starting at 9 o'clock. We had our first episode that is still on the website. You can take a look at it, but it went well. I enjoyed it. I think all the people enjoyed it. One thing we're looking for, though, is some ideas of a topic. And the topic is just something that if we run out of things to talk about, or if we have a topic, you can start out talking about whatever that topic is. So if you guys have ideas for a topic, open up your chat window and type in some ideas, and we'll pick it before we do it on again, it's Saturday the 16th at 9 o'clock. Okay, John, you want to give us a AAW report?
Yes. The ballot measure that went forward for the board to be able to appoint a board member if needed was approved. So the board has the ability to appoint a board member. Whether or not it'll be used, it's not an automatic. So we'll see how that all pans out. And they're still going to do the election. They're still working on getting videos out for the 6 candidates. And still looking for the logistics for the auctions and for a potentially virtual symposium.
Cool, okay.
It's been busy.
How often do you have meetings with them?
Well, for a while there, twice a week. But now we're back to our monthly meeting, except we will have special meetings for logistics for the symposium and the auction as needed.
So is being on the board of what you expected?
Yeah, I'm enjoying it.
Oh, good. Okay, thanks, John. Next, we got show and tell. So I've got some things people have sent me in for show and tell, but if anyone has not sent something in and want to show it, now's the time. If you have something to show, raise your hand. Do I see anybody? Am I missing anyone? Okay, I'll show you what was sent in. So is Joe on? Or Joe the dentist? I don't see him here. Let's see if he comes in a minute. If not, I'll talk about it. This is from Tim West. Tim, are you on? I don't see you, Tim. Okay, it's a square bowl, a square platter, I guess. That's the top of it. And then I'm not sure what this is. It's a little gnarly, but this looks pretty cool. Maybe that was just the same thing. So who raised your hand?
I'm here.
Hi, Joe.
How are you doing, Roger?
Let me go back to I was going to explain where this came from, but I'll let you go ahead.
This is part of a project from the Japanese carving class that the Guild gave a couple months ago. And they gave us each a block 8 by 8 by 4 inches approximately. And we carved the interior of that bowl with a chisel and a mallet. And there must be 4 hours worth of work carving that interior. Most of the people made that smooth with scrapers and sandpaper. I like the effect, the rough effect. I even carried it on the outside. The bottom 2 inches are the same type of carved surface. And I put a teak inlay around the side. There are 4 feet on here that I made by cutting away everything except the 4 pods for the feet. I should have taken a picture of that. And I just finished it with tung oil.
And this is the class taught by Masa?
Yes, yes. There's a Japanese carver. He had been a carver in Japan for 50 years. His real specialty is carving the bears that you see in northern Japan. Usually they have a fish in one hand, but very distinctive type of carving.
He's also the fellow that carved a sign for Dale's shop,
Oh,
which was quite a large sign.
hmm.
So Larry Wade's the guy at the guild that's driving the carving, and I always kid him that there's a lot easier way to make a bowl than this, but
Oh, a lot easier way.
it's a fun carving is a lot of fun.
Yes.
So Tim on yet? No. So that's all I had for show and tell. I don't know, Bill, did you have anything other? Anyone send you anything, Bill?
I did. Let me, I have them pulled up. Let me go ahead and share that screen. Oh.
Go ahead.
Okay, thanks. So, let's see. Lynn, I think Lynn is here. She did another one of her beautifully formed bowls and painted the interior of it. Makes it look like Italian tile. Lynn, you want to say something about that? Lynn?
Hey.
Hey.
This is just, the last one I had done was a piece of walnut from my parents' property. And then this was a piece of walnut, English walnut that I got from Dale. It was one of the kind of blanks that he had cut and let me sneak out with last time I was there for an open shop. So for some reason, I just felt like it'd be kind of more fun to do a pattern. And I was kind of brainstorming on potential patterns to copy, essentially. I started thinking about Portuguese tile. My mom, who recently passed away, is half Portuguese, and my brother had recently gone to Portugal and took a bunch of pictures of these cool tiles. And so I started digging around and copied a tile pattern. And for some reason, I'm just really enjoying painting on the insides of bowls. I know it's super impractical, but it's kind of like they have a little secret. You don't really know until you actually look inside them. And so I might do more of these. And I'm really enjoying milk paint. I had never used it before a couple of months ago, and it's
I was going to ask you if it was acrylic or something else.
It's just old-fashioned milk paint, powder stuff. So, but it just dries so hard, and it feels really solid and permanent, you know?
You put a finish over it or anything?
Do kinds of cool stuff. What's that?
You put a finish over it?
I've been putting Renaissance wax over it to give it a little sheen.
Beautiful. Isn't that a little bit hard to draw inside a bowl?
It's a huge pain.
Good.
Yeah. Then I have a couple from Larry Madsen. Larry, are you on?
Yeah.
You
So my wife kept taking my awl and not replacing it, so I made her these, her very own, out of a couple of wine stopper blanks that kind of failed. And then I continued and made one for my brother and my dad out of teak. I think it's teak. Fun little project. I came across the article a couple weeks ago and remembered, oh yeah, I was thinking about making that. With all this time on our hands, I decided, oh, good time to work on these projects. So,
what do you use for the tool steel?
I just bought some 3/16 rod from Ace Hardware, and I used my torch and hardened it. But I think like an old drill bit would probably be better. It'd be harder and wouldn't have to temper it.
Nice.
Thanks.
Also, here are from Kevin Wheeler. Kevin, are you on?
Yes, I'm on. And this is my first first box, and it's a present for my granddaughter. So she's probably not going to be too discerning about all the tool marks and everything on it. It has a pretty. I noticed that the finial got a little bit outsized, so that's a good safety thing for my little granddaughter. She won't poke her older sister's eye out with the finial, so that'll be a good thing. But it's my first the first one I've done so far that I haven't gone through the bottom or hasn't blown up in my lathe. So it was fun.
Great.
That's great. The next, Jason, do you want to talk about this amazing bowl?
Yeah, so this was a Craigslist find that someone had some cherry wood and they said it's out on the street, pick it up if you want. And I got there and it was a big chunk. And so that's the graft line. So the bottom half of the regular trunk and then the top half, the cherry blossom grafted on top. And so I was able to get 3 bowl blanks out of that one chunk of wood. And so I roughed them out around Christmas time and then was just finishing them lately. And so they were a lot of fun. And so that was the biggest one here. So it's pretty good size.
How big is it?
It's about 14, 15 inches across.
Okay, yeah, it is. Cool, thanks.
Cool. And then Dean. My neighbor Dean has something. Dean, are you on?
I am.
I think I saw you. There you are.
Yeah, so these were actually 2 pieces of wood that I got from Dale's house during an open shop. And the main part of the bowl is a piece of cherry burl that I think it was part of a core that Dale had from his coring machine. I'm not sure, but it started out as a small core. The top looks like, I believe that's English walnut, that small little piece that was out in his firewood pile that I'll always do a walk by there before I leave. Saw an interesting little piece of wood that was of dark color, walnut color. So I ended up putting the 2 together and made myself a little lidded bowl.
Nice.
Cool. Okay. And then Dave Wood. This was I put this in the newsletter, but I don't know if everyone saw it. Dave, are you on?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, Dave.
This is a good example of what I will never do again. A lot of time in the wood burning, but I'd never done wood burning before. And as I said before, this is the horse chestnut, following up on the earlier conversation about chestnut, which is basically junk wood. But you can, if you find a particular piece where all the layers, the aging layers, haven't peeled out, like this one, then you can do things with it. But it's very bland, almost plain white. So you have to do something to decorate it. And that's about that time, the Janice Levy course came up. So I signed up for that, thinking, well, that'd be a good way to do something with it. And I took the bowl to class, showed it to Janice, and she said, oh, I know what you should do. And so it ended up with grapevines on it, and which was her idea, not mine. But it was not that hard to find pictures that I could copy. But man, hours and hours of tracing and then the burning and so on. But
looks good.
It was fun in a way, but I'd rather hang on to a 3/4 inch chisel, and go at it. Shavings flat.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I have a couple things. My wife, during the COVID pandemic, wanted a pepper mill, so I did a thing with some figured maple, and then I just ebonized it with the the iron solution and the tree bark tannins solution that I think I've written about before in the newsletters. and it just really darkens up the wood. You can still see the grain pretty well, but anyway, and it works. It's a crush grind. Those are pretty good mechanisms for making salt and pepper mills. There's a kind of a large, I think this is about 15 inches across. Just a weird piece of cherry. It was okay. It was light. It fell apart, and it was just kind of a scratch. Yeah, and then I don't know why I did this, because I guess I just always wanted to try to do feet on a thing, and so I experimented with trying to do different types of feet on a bowl, and yes, it does keep it from tilting, but man, it takes forever to do. I guess I don't understand how to do it yet, but I think they look really nice after doing it, but they took me a long while to do them. So
you carved away the bottoms by hand and left the foot? Yes,
yeah. You leave a little around it while you're turning it, and then you sand it off. Well, you carve it off and then sand it, and just the sanding is hard.
Yeah.
For me to get it right, but okay, that's it for show and tell.
Cool. Well, next one is one I've been waiting for, and that's the design challenge that we had. And let me bring that up. And we had 3 people sent me stuff in. Am I sharing the right thing here? I think I messed up.
Hey, Roger,
Yeah.
I have them all out too, if you'd like me to. I've got a couple more too that.
Okay, so you have these?
Yeah.
Okay. I got a message that you have low bandwidth.
Oh, shoot.
So you're stuttering a little bit, but go ahead. I'll stop my share.
Well, if yours is better, then maybe you should do it then. There's just a
I've got
couple.
3 here, and why don't you do the other rest when...
Okay.
Okay, so the first one is Dave Wood.
Yeah, this is I would call this a prototype grade, but it was my first attempt, and I learned the hard way that when I stared at it, I realized you got to cut it on 2 axes that are 90 degrees apart. And my opinion is I didn't do it quite right, technique-wise and process-wise, as I would do next time. But I got there, and it's not terribly big. The bowl around it's about 4 inches in diameter. I think if you were to do it, you start out, the first step is carve it so that you end up with a half, like the bottom of a bowl on your half of your block, and then you rotate it 90 degrees. Try to make it hemispherical also, I think, is key. Rotate it 90 degrees. Spend a lot more time getting to the precise center than I did so that your circles are concentric. As you can see, I kind of shaded the rim of the bowl a little because it doesn't show up well on that white wood, but my inner circle and my outer circle were not quite concentric, and I know where I went wrong. But anyway, and you do have to, I glued on a sacrificial block and mounted mine on a faceplate, because that you just can't work with a tailstock and do what you need to do. And then at the end, when you're all done, you saw that sacrificial mount off, which would be a vertical piece to the left side of that bowl in the picture.
Okay, well, let's see if Jason did the same thing. You want to talk about it, Jason?
Yeah, so this was a piece from one of the club auctions or the raffles, and so I just had it laying around. So I just hot glued it onto a glue block And that's a little bit scary when you get that thing spinning. So I don't think I ever turned it faster than 600 RPM. And then the next picture shows that first phase. So I cut that out. I took a piece of thin MDF and cut the half circle so I could use it as a template to make sure that I was keeping it as round as possible. And then I forgot to take the picture of it glued on in the opposite direction, where you hollow out the center of the bowl as well as remove some of the block so you get that rim around the top. But it had a little bit of live edge, but it ended up looking like it was just a broken off piece. But it was
this
supposed
piece
to
right here.
add a little bit of interest, yeah. But it was a really fun little project. I didn't quite get it lined up perfectly on that second glue up either. So I have one side that's slightly thinner than the other, and has had to sand out kind of that little step. But I was happy with it.
Well, you made me think about using hot glue again, because it looks scary to me.
I was surprised at how much hold it had on there and how difficult it was to remove. It tore some of the wood off of both pieces.
Yeah, I think Bill had a good suggestion of using a heat gun to loosen it up.
Yeah.
Or even a hair dryer, I think you could probably use.
Yeah. Very good. And then we have Jim. Jim is here. Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, I'm here. Okay. So I can show some photos from my screen.
Yeah.
Of how I went through this. Perhaps.
Okay.
What are y'all seeing?
Your face.
So why didn't that work?
You need to click on the window and then say share.
Click on, oh, there it is. Okay. Now, where did my thing go?
We see your.
You see my whole thing, but
You see your window. We see your desktop.
There it is.
Okay.
So can I just show you? Well, never mind. There you go. Are you seeing my
Yep.
intro thing?
Yeah.
All right. So this is a piece of fir that I started with. It was sort of a 2x4 piece, a little bit thicker than a normal 2x4, and I ended up with a bowl. It's 3 inches diameter by about 1.5 inches high, and then the square block piece, which I call the womb, is 1.5 inches high by 1 3/4 wide by 3 5/8 long. And I called it Emerging Twins because I made 2 of them. So there they are. And they turned, for the first time ever doing this, they turned out good. You might ask why I made 2. And the reason is I started with that and I made 2 blocks, and then I glued them together like that with the paper glue joint between, so that I could mount it. And then I glued on a tenon here so I could mount it on the lathe on the chuck and turn what amounts to the protruding part of the bowl. And as you guys have said, that's got to be spherical. So I made a template out of poster board and turned this sphere, there's a hemisphere actually here, and used the template to make sure that I got it as perfect as possible. And then that's what it looks like coming off, and it was screwed on, it was on this chuck. I cut off the tenon, and then it looks like that. So then I split it apart on the glue joint. So now I got 2 pieces, 2 blanks basically, that are half done. And then I screwed one of those onto a faceplate, added this block here, which is a balance block because it's going to be way out of balance, and aligned it. And as you 2 guys, Dave and whoever it was, said, you got to get it lined up perfect. And what I use is a tri-square. Set it on my propped it up on my tool rest. So I could line up this point, and then I would rotate it and check that point, and then rotate it again and check that point. And I kept banging on this with a light hammer because it was just loosely screwed onto the faceplate, so I could move it around and get it lined up as best as possible. And then I screwed on this balance piece here and pushed it up tight against the good piece, just to give it a little bit of extra support for it in case there was a lot of rotational stuff from turning air and not. And then turn this surface down and this rim down here. And then I bored a hole and got ready to hollow it out. Hollowed it out, and again I used a template to get the interior, the spherical shape as well, because you can't feel the wall thickness. And then when that was all done, take it off the faceplate, remove the screws from the back. And I didn't mention, but this area right here is waste, and this area right here is waste, because that's where the screws came through from the back of the faceplate. We end up with that, and then sand it, put some finish on it, and you're done, and you end up with two instead of one.
It's impressive. That's cool. Very good, thanks. And we have one more from Dean. And let me bring that up. Thought I had one more.
Yeah, I sent it to you.
Oh, do you have it, Bill?
I do have it.
Okay.
It was really small, so I don't know if that'll work, but I have one as well.
Dean also wrote up a document on how he did it, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it dawned on me that the picture I sent you guys was a little out of focus. I took a few of them. I'll reiterate what the others have said, that aligning your axes, and it's two different axes you do it on. That's the first thing that came to mind, right? Well, the obvious one is the center of the bowl is an obvious axis. So when you're working on that dimension, I cleaned off the face, which is the top of the block, and then bore out the center of the bowl as well, and that's on one axis. And then when you set up the other axis, and the idea of a balance block, I think it's a great idea, because you actually have to align when you're working off the other axis. You're putting your mounting block on the what is the back end of the block, and the center of your block has to align with the top of the bowl. So it's like really off center as you're turning it. That's so that you can in essence, do the outside bottom of the bowl.
Great.
So Dean, you did the inside of the bowl first.
I did, yes.
Yeah, I did it the other way around.
You know, and I had tried that with my proof of concept block. I used a piece of 2x4 to do a proof of concept, and had done it that way, and decided that when I did it with this hardwood, that I would do it doing the inside of the bowl and the top of the block, the face first. I'm not sure that there's an advantage one way to the other. I think the idea of a balance block is a great idea, though, because.
Yeah. Well, good. That was quite a challenge, and I'm impressed. I didn't know what to call this, and Dale texted me and said it's called an emerging bowl. If you do a search on emerging bowls, you'll see a number of people that have done them. But you guys, it's impressive. So
Roger, I did a couple as well. I just wanted to show too. That I did two of them, cool. And then I did one that was kind of a different type of one. and I'm glad I did it again, the exercise of it, but it was way too much measuring for me. So, but
Somehow we got to get this written up so that some of us could actually duplicate what you guys did. So anyways, so we need to move on. We want to get to Tom's demo here. And I know I missed a couple of people raising their hands. Did anyone have something they wanted to say before we move on?
I was just going to show a bowl that I had done in a microwave.
Okay.
This is apple.
Great.
And started out just green. We just cut it. And then I shaped it and then started microwaving it 6 minutes at a time inside of a bag and let it cool, and then put it in took the bowl out, put it in a different bag, and probably microwaved it 30 times. And then let it sit there for about a week. And then I went to John Beechwood and to see how dry it was. And it was like 11% dry. And so did that. It was, yeah, I had, so it went from tree to bowl in just a short time, which was kind of cool. I'd never microwaved the wood before.
Looks like looks like it has a nice figure in it.
Yeah, yeah.
Good, thanks.
So.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to the main event. I think all of you know Tom Willing. He's done a number of demos for us before. Tom is very creative, and we've worked on this for a couple of weeks. Finally finished it a couple days ago. And there is one thing about Tom. Tom is very creative, and he's being cooped up like the rest of us. For creative people, sometimes this gets to them. And I didn't realize it, but I got a call from his wife a couple days ago after we finished. And she said, I'm really worried about Tom. He's really worked hard on this. He's been cooped up, and I just don't know what to do. And I said, well, what's the problem? Well, let me just share this with you.
I want to break free. I want to break free.
This sort of looks like Tom. So Tom, with that, I'm going to pass it on to you, and we'll see how this goes. So unmute yourself.
There you go. Well, there's a joker in every crowd. The funny part of that is I wouldn't put it beyond my wife to do that. So, but I've learned a lot from my wife's main yard pets, who are a bunch of chickens. And so that's been a lot of fun. So thank you all for having me here. And after some of what I've seen, I'm not sure that I'm really the right guy to be here doing this part, but I'll go ahead and stumble through it anyway. And I want to start with some thanks to Roger, because he basically made the video part of it work. And he covered up some missteps that you don't even notice that he took the boo-boos out of there. So thank you for making me look good, Roger. I will start just by running the videos that we made. And Roger's got it set up with two people whose names I've forgotten now. But if you have questions about what I'm doing or admonishments about how I should not be doing it, I'm all ears and open and interested in that. So here I go. I'm going to go